Good evening, and welcome to another episode of Mowing After Dark here on the College Football Mafia Network. I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. I know we've got some competition out there. NFL game, I know Greg's still rambling on, so want to let you guys know that Rock and Rant is in his car. Rock and Rant has landed. He is in Miami. He is on his way. He is joining us via audio link. As soon as he's in a safe spot and he's able to get his video capture up, we will get video capture up and get live coverage from Miami, the site of tomorrow's national championship game. So should be good. I want to thank Ricky Tungate first off for coming in here and gifting 5 members. Ricky, unfortunately, YouTube deleted that comment, but I did see it earlier, so I did see that you gifted 5 memberships. I want to thank you for that, sir. At least now I understand why YouTube is doing this and why their chat sucks. I'm going to play a little bit of the Indiana song. I'm sure Rock doesn't want to hear this, but we gotta do it because Ricky Tungate did gift 5 memberships to the College Football Mafia family. If you received one of those gifted memberships, make sure you thank Ricky Tungate in the chat. Or if you're watching this video on demand at a later time, go ahead and thank him in the comment section as well. I'm sure he will appreciate it as much as we appreciate him. Here you go, Ricky. All right. I'm
Well,
say,
Mr. Hertz let me through, so I should be able to talk now. I don't think I stole the car.
okay. Did you get a nice rental car at least?
I did after having to tell them that I was going to make a scene on a live stream with Moen After Dark, and they were completely fearful after that,
That
the bad press. So
that happens. That happens. Well, I'm glad I
it
got the
does.
upgrade.
It does. Say it even has a complimentary bottle of blue Mad Dog, but it's in the rear of the SUV.
that's that's good news. I'm sure that you don't want Blue Mad Dog and Buzz Bombs and everything else going on tonight. Although I've heard from people on the ground in Miami that traffic is a logjam. It's been crazy all weekend. Ticket prices are going through the roof. Uh, it's insane there in South Beach. How was your flight?
Oh, it was fine. It was, probably, 50% civilians, 50% Indiana and Miami people, but it was a Miami-based flight crew. So, they got a little dig in at the end of the flight once everybody was on the ground. And I will say that Miami Athletic Department and City was fairly smart. You know how they have those digital billboard networks, right? And everywhere you look, it's like no place like home for Miami. But I'm sure that Indiana is representing big time out on South Beach. I know that they had a rally today that looked like it was pretty well attended. So shout out to all the Indiana fans that are making the scalpers a gazillion dollars as well.
Absolutely. And I noticed that they got some snow. I don't think it got as far south as South Beach, but some snow in Florida. So it looks like Indiana may have brought some of that Midwest winter with them.
Well, there is some snow. It's usually on South Beach, but it's of a different type.
that's
Ironically, or not so much, the Miami official hotel from the college football playoff, I'm sure it's just purely luck of the draw, is the Fountain Blue. Fountain Blue is the scene of the famous um, Al Pacino
uh
moments in
Scar
Scarface. So
yeah. Yeah. Uh Great film by Brian De Palma. But yeah, it's amazing to me how many Indiana fans I've seen on the local coverage here. Although we're in Ohio, we do get, they are covering it. And I've seen a lot of Indiana fans there in South Beach. But hey, I mean, when it's your first opportunity to potentially win a national championship for your school, I don't blame them. I would be going all out as well.
yeah, I'm sure they're look. I don't know what it's going to be. My guess is that it's somewhere between 60-40 in one direction or the other for, across the board, but we'll find out, in basically 24-ish hours, assuming that people can actually make it in since the president has decided to come, because what you definitely needed at the shit show that will be Hard Rock with security anyway is a presidential entourage, but we're getting it all.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, you're getting it all. Indiana Hoosiers, the number 1 seed versus the number 10 seed. Miami Hurricanes, a showdown in the 305. That's the name of the show. That's what we've got going on here, folks. We will talk. I don't know how much abreast you kept up on the news while you were on your flight, Rock. It looks like we're sticking with 12 teams in the college football playoff. Uh, Assuming that there's not a miracle at some point before this Friday. But let's I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to roll in and say hello to some people. So,
All right, sounds good. I'm surprised that the Big Ten and SEC didn't have an alliance that's sticking. I'm utterly shocked because the Big
yeah.
Ten's known for doing that.
Yep, we have a good alliance, mate. Outlaw Skies says first go Buckeyes. And then he says a dumb question is people who are cheerleading a top 50 league, I think he means Super League, think that other than Utah, Kansas, or Arizona State, no other school in the Big 12 really has a shot to be in. Maybe. I don't believe in Super League. I believe in super conferences. The Big Lubbock was first. The evil Badger Ryan Willie is here. He says hi, Moen. Good to see you. Bob Swanger's here. He says hi, everyone. Good to see you, Bob.
What's happening, Bob? I'm muting every once in a while if I think there's a lot of background noise as I'm driving.
You're fine. You're fine. Eyes on the road, man. That's me saying good evening to everybody. The other Gygax is here. He says hi, everyone.
What's up, Daniel?
Dave's here, gives us a little lyrics from Rage Against the Machine. Some of those who worked forces. Rage Against the Machine, damn, I'm old. I remember them. I actually saw them in concert once.
I have many Rage Against the Machine stories that we can tell one day when it's story time with Moen.
Well, it'd be story time with Rock, not story time with Moen. Moen doesn't have any.
I'll just say this. Imagine the first time an entire company finds out about a band that they've never heard of before, that's their record label, and they didn't know that the lyrics for Killing in the Name of were the actual lyrics, and they thought they were telling everyone in the crowd what they were going to, what they won't do.
Nathan Campbell's here. He says, hi, guys. Good to see you, Nate. Skaven, yes, says Moen After Dark carries a lot of weight that companies fear. No, that's just Moen After Dark just carries weight. Nobody's afraid of me. David Sabinosh is here. He says, good evening, fellas. And then he became a member. Congratulations, David. We appreciate that so much. We will let you cook.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said, let him cook.
Make sure you check out all our members only content, including Moan Confidential, new episode coming up later this week. We do appreciate you becoming a member, and I'm glad you finally joined. I see you finally joined. Appreciate that, sir. So let's before we get into the whole national championship vibe thing, let's talk about the college football playoff. Meeting today, Big Ten wants 24, SEC, or Big Ten doesn't want 24 right away. Big Ten wants a commitment towards 24. SEC does not. SEC wants to stick at a 16. Right now, if nothing gets done by Friday, there will not be another extension. We will be stuck at 12 team for the foreseeable future. Were you able to catch up on that news while you were on your flight, Rock?
Yeah, I saw a bunch of it. Look, I think there's a lot of posturing going on. I think it's highly ironic and highly predictable that the SEC and the Big Ten don't actually agree on all the things that they thought they were going to as two co-equals in deciding this. And I think by Friday, greed will take over and one or the other will take place because there's too much money there to be had.
If I'm Tony Petitti and I'm the Big Ten, I'm not doing anything. I'm not giving up anything.
But what's the give up? Like 16 is still more than 12, and there's still more money for your schools. That's just because you want 24 on the way. I mean, I get it. Maybe they want to shoot. Look, it would be the most college football thing in the world to both at the same time always try to get more money and then figure out a way how to actually not get more money because you don't get everything you want. This is what everybody has set themselves up for.
I agree with you, but I look at it this way. The Big Ten has played, there's now been two 12-team playoffs. The Big Ten has occupied 50% of the Final Four both years. So, yes, the SEC is getting more teams in, but the Big Ten is getting more teams through. So if I'm the Big Ten, why would I jump to 16? I'm doing pretty well on a 12-team playoff. Yeah, I'm not getting the teams that would be in the 16-team playoff, I think the Big Ten might have got one extra team in this year, and the SEC would have got in two.
Right.
So, depending on what they did with BYU, Notre Dame, the SEC probably would have got two in. The Big Ten might have got none in. So, what's the advantage for the Big Ten to go to 16 unless the SEC is willing to give them something in return?
Well, to fulfill the ever-loving desire to give Iowa a chance to make the playoff would be one.
By the way, Iowa did win their bowl game.
Correct, and they would have made the playoffs this year. In in a 24 they will for sure, but they might have could have been very close getting in the 16, right? So there are definitely fringe teams from the Big Ten that, yes, 24 does a lot, but a couple more next year could absolutely get in under 16.
Yeah, we'll have to see. But like I said, it's all give and all take. I think the Big Ten needs something from the SEC in exchange for giving it up.
But what is? I guess my question is, now that the SEC has already gone to 9, and now the ACC is, except for their stupid transition plan. But essentially, Big Ten got one thing they wanted everybody else, right? Which was the equal amount of conference losses that would get distributed to every conference by definition. Or win, half will get one more loss. Other than that, what exactly do the Big Ten and the SEC owe each other other than the reach arounds that they do and tell everybody how they have a partnership and they don't even agree on anything?
I don't know that it's necessarily they owe something to the other one, but I think, listen, if this is the way they've got the CFP split, it's split evenly. They've got control of the situation. And it seems to me, yeah, the SEC moved to 9 conference games, but that's not just something the Big Ten wanted. That's something the Big 12 wanted. That's something even the ACC wanted. So that wasn't exactly a get for the Big Ten. The 16
Well, what does the get here in the 16 and 24? Like, what does the get for one side or the other? SEC wants 16. What is the give that they would want from the Big Ten? What is the Big Ten going to get from? I don't even know. It feels like we're in the terms of the 16 or 24. It's like almost like starting off scratch. And maybe I'm forgetting something, and forgive me for that. But it's almost like we're starting off scratch. SEC wants 16 because they're fine with 12. And Big 12 wants 24, and obviously they're not really fine with 12. Or maybe they're both fine with 12, and then we could just don't have to worry about it. We don't have to even worry about a fake deadline on Friday.
Right. I think the Big Ten can live with 12 a lot more easily than the SEC can live with 12. Because obviously the 16-team playoff model benefits the SEC more than any other conference. The 5+11, they're going to get more at-large bids. The way they've set up the strength of schedule, strength of record structure, we know they're going to get more teams in. If it was 16 teams this year, Texas and Vanderbilt are probably in.
I got another reason though for the Big Ten, because now that we know what we know, unless there's been a caveat, I got another Big Ten reason. What if, because this would just be the way college football does, because it's chaos, right? We know that there's a memorandum of understanding when it comes to Notre Dame in the 12 and 14 team models that long as they're ranked a certain place, they get in no matter what. And that no matter what could be at the expense of a Big Ten team. I don't believe that memorandum of understanding applies should you go to 16 or 24. So just imagine a year forward. What if that thing that would have this year, I guess, theoretically screwed Miami? What if next year theoretically could have screwed a potential Big Ten team because you're still at 12 or 14?
I agree with you, but again, I don't know what you get from the. I don't agree with the 2014 model. I hate it. I think it's too many teams. I think it devalues the regular season. 16 is fine with me. 12 is fine with me. I like 12.
See, I have no I have no horse in the game on 16 and 24. I genuinely don't care, because 16 I can understand, and as I've said before, 24 is still, despite, because we did no playoffs forever in the only sport that had no playoffs forever, it's still less of a percentage of the members eligible for it than every other football division in college football, and then some. It's still lower percentage than the pros. I can see that hey, maybe there's a devalue thing, but if it enables the Big Ten to do the play-in model, then I don't know that it devalues anything. I don't really care, honestly, 16 or 24, but I just think it's ridiculous that we have to keep going through these with two spoiled children commissioners who just can't ever agree on anything after taking all the power.
Well, that's the way it works, silver spoons and whatnot. But I think the Big Ten, again, and maybe it's Big Ten homerism because I'm a Big Ten guy. I think they've got to get at least something out of the SEC beyond, give them a scheduling agreement, do bowl tie-ins with the Big Ten and the SEC, give the Big Ten something that they can hang their hat on. In order to give the SEC, because I mean the 16-team model is going to favor the SEC. The 2014 model would favor the SEC less so. You'd get a lot more of what I would consider middle class Big Ten teams, middle class Big 12 teams, middle class ACC teams into the playoffs with the 2014 format. With a 16-team format, I think those middle class teams are going to lose out to SEC middle class teams.
Yeah, and I understand that. I appreciate that might be the situation. I guess the really just comes down to, do they want all the extra money or not, right? Or in one fell swoop, or do you keep negotiating? I to me, I'm not necessarily a big advocate of the whole scheduling agreement, because if you're not in those two conferences, you guys are now creating more of a self-fulfilling prophecy to fill up more of the spaces regardless, because you'll have the Big Ten and the SEC not necessarily scheduling Big 12 or ACC teams in those out-of-conference games, and there's less opportunities for out-of-conference games. So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy to me overall that those two conferences will get more at-larges, because their out-of-conference schedule will be like, oh, look what they did, look who they played, and that's because they cock-blocked the other two conferences out by both having more conference games and then taking up one of the out of conference games automatically, if not more, with the scheduling agreement.
I completely get where you're coming from. And again, a scheduling agreement, I think it's going to be dependent on how many games you actually schedule and who you schedule. I mean, like a scheduling agreement of 4 games, 6 games, 8 games. You're right. It might have an impact on those individual teams, but I don't think it would have as devastating an impact on the Big 12 or ACC as one would think. I still think Georgia's going to play Georgia Tech every year. I still think Miami and Florida State, they would still play every year. That's an in-conference game, but that's still great for strength of, well, I shouldn't say it's great for strength of schedule or strength of record.
In theory, it could be again.
It could be.
I just don't know when.
Right. But I mean, like adding Oklahoma, Nebraska. Let's just say there's 4 games you add. You add Oklahoma, Nebraska, Ohio State, Alabama, Michigan, Texas, or USC, Texas. I think USC, Texas is better, and Michigan, LSU. Do you really think adding just 4 scheduled games like that are guaranteed, and
I
they
think
can
if it's
rotate?
I think if it's that, if it's a block of games, but like I don't know what adding 4 scheduled games does, because right now you already had 2, 3, or 4 of those anyway, right? To me, a scheduling agreement is more like the challenges from the basketball side, where one of those out of conference games, and maybe this is just a definition thing, one of the out of conference games is always Big Ten. You're basically over time getting to the place that one of those is a Big Ten versus SEC matchup for all 16 teams in the SEC, and maybe 2 teams currently in the Big Ten would not have one. Though again, by the time you even get to implementing it, who knows how many teams either conference might have.
Right, but I understand there are schools that schedule, like Ohio State has Alabama on the schedule, it has
Yeah,
Georgia on the
Texas.
upcoming schedule, had Texas on the schedule, Michigan has Oklahoma on the schedule. There are Big Ten blue bloods, power teams, whatever you want to classify them as, that do schedule tough opponents. But I would like to see some kind of baked in, hey, we're going to have 4 games. It's going to be a Big Ten. Uh, Unfortunately, I'm going to self-own myself here and go back to the Alliance. Remember, the Alliance was
Mhm.
supposed to get us these type of games, and that was one of the things that was positively looked at by as the Alliance. But I mean,
Right.
I'd like to see something baked in. I'd like to see renewed rivalries, especially Oklahoma, Nebraska. I think that would be awesome as an end of the year game. Because the Red River rivalry that Oklahoma has takes place mid-season. I'd love to see something like that. Iowa, Missouri, a game like Iowa, Missouri. They're only separated by like 150 some miles. Both of them black and gold colors. I mean, it's a border war. That would be a great. It doesn't
Yeah.
even need to be the top tier teams. It can be the middle, what I would consider the middle class teams. You could have Iowa versus Missouri. I think that would be a great matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I want to see as many more big games and big brands too, right? I also think it's important for like Ohio State to keep playing MAC games, right? Because we know what that
Right.
does to the health of those programs. In some of the other places where schools play HBCUs, those are basically keeping a lot of money coming into those programs for whatever you want to call it, a cupcake or a sort of layup type of game. Most of the time, every once in a while, everyone gets shocked. But yeah, look, I think we all want to see as many good games and as good matchups as possible. I just don't want to see, some. I also don't want it to become where not every team is really getting a chance to get those matchups because they're blocked out.
Yeah. It's interesting. We do have till Friday. I don't know. You might be right. Maybe greed kicks in and they come up to
It
some
usually does in this
conclusion.
sport. It usually does in this sport, right?
Uh, we'll see. We'll see. But that's the latest scuttlebutt out there. I want to get to some comments here while you're going rock, and we'll because I want to get some feedback from people. And as soon as I can scroll up without getting Mick Stevens says go Frogs. So there you go. Big win over USC in the bowl game this year. Mark's Holy Grail says the obvious compromise should be 14 teams for 2026. 2 more teams actually helps a lot. Notre Dame and BYU would have been in a 14 team. And with 14 teams, there are only 2 bye teams waiting a month to play. Mark, I would not be so sure that the SEC would not have pitched a fit to keep BYU out. I think they would have probably pitched a fit to get Vanderbilt in over BYU. But you might be right. You might be right. 14 might be the way. The biggest pushing less selections if they go to 16, and I think the SEC is pushing back on that. These guys are incompetent. Well, there's a lot of money to be made here, so don't look for competence where money's involved. Bob Swanger says he wants 16 with no buys. I agree. I think 16 fits best. Get rid of the buys, get 2 home games on campus. Reduce travel costs. I mean, look at Indiana fans. Look at Miami fans. At least Miami fans, you got your national title game right there in Miami if you're local. But look at all the traveling that you got. You had to go to Texas A&M. Then you had to go to Dallas. And then you had
Phoenix.
And now you got to go back to Miami. If you're a fan, you can't afford. I shouldn't say you can't. For most fans, for the vast majority of fans, you cannot afford to travel to 4 different games.
No, it's nuts, though, man.
Yeah, it's nuts. So, March Holy Grail says we need buys to reward conference championships. I agree. We need something to reward conference championships, but I think seeding is where you're going to get your rewards. Instead of straight seeding, I think instead of buys and straight seeding, you get some
home
kind
games.
You get home games, but you also get seedings that are going to be ranked to you. So if you're the SEC champion, you might get number 1 overall and get to play number 16. If you're the big champion, you get number 2 overall. Big 12 champion, you get number 3 overall, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, that all makes sense.
Rock, they were given the power by the Big 12 and the ACC.
Yeah, under threat of duress, right? Either do this or we just leave on our own. So you can't say that they were given. If someone's got a gun to your head, you're like, please sign on this or we will take our leagues and go on our own way. That's essentially what was happening for them. And not to give Jim Phillips any credit, because I don't at all, but that was essentially, we're either doing this or we're just going to go do our own thing. So I don't know what you expect them to do.
James Kane says everything benefits the SEC 16 or 24. It's just that 24 benefits them slightly less. I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, I think that makes total sense what James is saying.
Sean says, who cares? But that's a Sean thing.
That is a Sean thing, as he's in the show all the time, talking about the things that nobody cares about. London, man.
Dave's here, says Ohio State is playing Texas. Michigan is playing Oklahoma this season. Absolutely right. They do schedule stuff, but if there's something that was baked in, I think it would benefit the Big Ten. It would benefit both of them. You're right. But I would love to see Oklahoma, Nebraska come back. Regular season and playing tougher teams should mean something. I agree. That's why I don't like 24. I think at 24, it just gets too cumbersome. Dave's here, wants the middle to play. Sean says, when's Indiana going to play somebody out of schedule? Well, I think they're playing probably the second best team in the country tomorrow, correct? Or the best team in the country tomorrow, depending on how you look at it. So
I'm hoping it's the former.
Yeah, I was going to say they busted Alabama. They busted Oregon. I'd say Indiana's played some people. I get your point about the out of conference scheduling, but that's got to be handled in house by Tony Petitti, and Tony Petitti needs to deal with that.
It's pretty quiet over at the Heck, by the way. There's cops and stuff blocking, but there's nothing really interesting to look at. I'm gonna just walk around and see if there's anything going on. But team's over in Miami Beach, so they haven't been here for a couple of days. So other than they're painting something new on the front of the building, nothing super exciting to see over there. But we can just walk and talk as long as it's not making too much noise.
Yeah. See if you can find a Cuban sandwich vendor.
I might. I have to go by the lake here and see what's going on, but we'll see. We'll see if there's anything. Definitely a little windy right now. I know it's supposed to have 20 miles. It's supposed to be pretty nice tomorrow, 68, 54 kind of breakdown. only very little chance of rain, but wind gusts of like 20. Nothing like the Texas A&M game, but certainly interesting to see what happens with that game.
The border war belongs to Kansas, Missouri, Mo, and don't try to make rivalry games that'll never be rivals again. 120 some miles. They're pretty close. I'm not saying call it the border war, but I'm just saying that those are potential middle class Big Ten and SEC schools that would be fun to watch square off. I could find some other ones too. We could do Kentucky versus Illinois for the Land of Lincoln Trophy. Let's see. James Kane says, "Yep." Anthony Manzano 3551. Moen, can you explain this narrative that Indiana is one of the greatest teams at the same level as LSU from 2019, Georgia from 2023, Miami from 2001, Texas from 2005, and Nebraska from 1995? Well, I think you can make that argument if they win tomorrow, Anthony. The thing you mentioned about all these teams here, they were national champions. But Indiana has done pretty well. I mean, their closest game was the Big Ten championship game against Ohio State, which they won by 3. But they pretty easily handled Alabama. They've pretty easily handled Oregon. We'll see how they perform tomorrow night, but I think if they win tomorrow night and they go undefeated for the full season of a 12-team playoff, I'm not going to say they're as good as Joe Burrow's LSU was, because I think Joe Burrow's LSU was probably the greatest team in college football, but I would put them up there. I would say, look, yeah, if you play in the Big Ten, you win your Big Ten Conference Championship, you make it to the national championship game, you make it through a 12-team playoff, and you win the national championship, I think you should be credited with being up there among some of the greats. Big Ten would have had 3 teams in 16 and 6 in 24 this past year. SEC would have had 7 in both formats. Yeah, I mentioned this a little earlier, LC versus Earth. The 16 team is always going to benefit the SEC more than it is the Big Ten. And it's just because of the way the strength of schedule is, the strength of record is, all that stuff that's set up. But thank you for the super chat, sir. Give you a little sounder here. Let's do a little Laszlo.
Well, that changes pretty much fucking everything. Count me in.
Moen, the last time Indiana won a national championship was when the Packers were dominating in the 50s. Indiana never won a national championship in football. This would be their first. Indiana is overrated, to be honest. Who the hell have they played outside of Oregon and Ohio State? They played Alabama. Alabama was an SEC team, and Ty Simpson's probably going to be a first-round quarterback selection. So Indiana did play some teams. I understand what you're saying. Their out-of-conference schedule was very weak, but they did play against Oregon. They did play against Ohio State. I believe they played against Michigan this year as well. So they played some teams. Sco says go Hoosiers. There you go. I'm rooting for the Hoosiers. I've got my final of my 3 Indiana hats on, even though I'm an Ohio State Buckeye. I'd love to see Indiana win it all. I think that would be just one of the greatest stories in college football. We can argue about if they're the greatest team or not, but I would see greatest stories. Why does everyone keep ignoring the USC 2004 team in conversation for one of the best teams of all time? It was proved that Miami paid their players too. SC 2003, 2004, 2005 went 33-3. Hey, you're not getting any arguments from me. Those Pete Carroll USC teams were dominant teams. Because when you look at Miami's schedule, we have more top 15 teams on our schedule. Okay. But you also lost to Louisville and SMU, and Indiana has not lost a game yet. I mean, that has to count for something, not losing a game and winning the Big Ten Conference, especially considering the Big Ten has been the national championship winner the last 2 years in a row. I said be in a conversation. USC is never even included, and you can see how many NFL players they had and how dominant they were during that period. I agree. They, like I said, I like the USC teams. Michigan has never played LSU. Okay. We can do Michigan LSU. I have no problem with that. I was thinking Oregon LSU, but Michigan LSU would be good too. I hope they pick up Kansas as their out of conference P4 pickup, bring back the border war. I think you're talking about the SEC. Alabama wasn't a good team this year. Alabama only got in because they are Alabama. Well, they did win a playoff game at Oklahoma on the road, so. Indiana should have played UVA. You're not going to get any disagreement from me on that one. I 100% agree with you. Indiana should play a Power 4 team. I think everybody should. I think Tony Petitti needs to move towards that we should be doing a 9+1 model. Mo, and you have to agree the dumbass tiebreaker that the ACC had screwed Miami out of being in the conference championship. Well, that's a tiebreaker that everybody in the ACC agreed to, including Miami. So, you know. Ohio State should be ashamed of Indiana winning over them in conference championship. Tomorrow, if they win the national championship, Sean, Ohio State will have lost 2 games this season to the national champion. Well, regardless of who wins, they will have lost to the national champion and the runner-up. Those are 2 pretty damn good losses to have on your record. BYU lost to Texas Tech twice, and Texas Tech didn't score a point on Oregon. So, and it's not like Indiana had any trouble scoring points on Oregon the next week. As a Hurricanes fan, I hate to do this. I have to thank Florida State and Clemson for suing the conference. Now we don't have to share any of our playoff earnings with the conference. We keep it all. That's true. That is probably why you were the biggest winner in this, Anthony Manzano. Florida State and Clemson both took on the undertaking of suing the conference and putting all the legal fees into it, and you took all the reward. So congratulations. I'm glad that you're able to find that silver lining there for yourself, or golden lining, as it were. I'm just going to check my Twitter here real quick and see. Yeah, we may have lost Rock and Rant for the evening. I'm not sure. He just kind of cut off there, but hopefully he'll jump back in here at some point. But I want to get your guys' predictions. What do you guys think? Give me the score. Give me the winner. Give me the score for tomorrow night's national championship game. I want to see what you guys think. I've got my opinion. I kind of want to wait until Rock gets back to share it, but I'd love to hear your guys' opinion. Let me know what you think the final score is. Let me know what you think the winner is. Would love to hear it. The record had they played UVA would have been the same. I don't know necessarily. UVA had a good year this year, and congratulations to UVA, but they couldn't get it done against Duke. So Indiana did not play Michigan this year, though had they played them, they would have beat them. Let's see. Pac-12 had plenty of tough games and good QBs, Aaron Rodgers, etc. Yeah, there was a time there in the early 2000s where that was where you got your quarterbacks. Let's see here. We caught up to all those comments. That's good. Let's see here. Other Gygax likes Indiana 31, Miami 10. Sorry, Rock. Indiana is really good. Bob Swanger says, I like Indiana to cover. Okay. Evil Badger has Indiana 54, Miami 6. Mark's Holy Grail has it 31-24. That sounds like a pretty competitive game. I'd like to see that. Anthony Manzano says this game is going to be a defensive battle. I don't think either team blows out the opponent. I'm guessing it goes to overtime. And when was the last time a national championship went into overtime? Alabama, Georgia? I think that was yeah. I think that was it. I might be wrong. Oh hey Moen in number 2. Yeah, number 2, we lost him. He was here, Buckshot Kid, but you know, he had just got down to the athletic center there at the University of Miami. And he was doing some walking around. I told him to go find me a Cuban sandwich. Brian, that would be quite the beating. Yeah, if Ryan's prediction's right, 54-6, that would be. Listen, if you know, we mentioned it earlier, Anthony. If Indiana comes out and beats them 54-6, then yeah, I'm going to have to consider Indiana one of the best teams up there with the Joe Burrows of the world and the Matt Leinerts and Reggie Bushes. Sean thinks it's 34-28 Miami. So far, I think, yeah, the Tua game. The game where Tua came in, that was the last overtime national championship. Marcus Williams says Indiana by a lot. Okay. I think this is going to be a higher scoring game than people think. I think Indiana 38, Miami 34. And I think there's going to be a missed field goal by one of those teams. At least one missed field goal. Miami 19, Indiana 14. That's an interesting one. So you're looking for a safety in there somewhere, right, Anthony? Or how are you getting to 19? Yeah, you're looking for a safety to get to 17 and a safety to get to 19. That's an interesting. I mean, hell, that's got to be a nice prop bet if you're looking to bet some money. Put that as a prop bet. You're probably going to get pretty long odds on a safety. Is missed field goal on your parlay? I've just got it as a prop bet. Lots of things like that. You can just do prop bets on them, Daniel, and they tend to pay off. So it's like plus 1,500 odds, missed field goal in the first half. Like the safety, like I was telling Anthony, if he's planning on there being a safety, putting Miami to score a safety on there, that's going to give you quite a bit of a payout. That's going to be very long odds. 4 field goals plus 1 touchdown equals 19. I had to mute his mic. Sometimes we get feedback. I think Miami is going to be able to run the ball on Indiana. Okay. 42-17 Indiana. Rich Austin thinks it's going to be a big one for Indiana. Is there any possible way Miami can get to 19 by scoring touchdowns? There is, but literally there's a trick play, or there's a scoring way where you can score 1 point. So you could score, well, you could do it this way. You could do touchdown, 2-point conversions, and then get a field goal. But 19 is just going to be a really difficult number to get to. The most likely way you could get to 19 would be 2 touchdowns, a field goal, and a safety.
I actually hear you, Moen.
Okay, I can hear you as well.
Miracles. There we go.
Did you find me a Cuban sandwich yet?
I'm looking, though. It looks like everybody's on South Beach, man. It's like a ghost town. But then again, I'm over by where classes are, and they're not really doing that on a Sunday night. But we'll see. We'll see if we can find you a Cuban and a Cuban sandwich, too.
Yeah. Just a Cuban person. Just find me a Cuban person.
That shouldn't take too long. I just got to see some human whatsoever. What were the points that we were talking about there?
We were giving
19.
our score predictions. Anthony Manzano said 19 points for Miami, 14 points for Indiana.
Did the money line? Did the line keep moving? I saw it move up from 8.5, 9 to 7.5. Is it still in that vicinity?
I couldn't tell you. All I've done are prop bets.
Right.
I did take the over. I took the over. My score prediction is 38-34 Indiana, with a missed field goal by one team.
Hey, I can understand that. I get it.
What is your score prediction?
I think I had it as 27-21 Miami the other day, but I'm not 100% sure if I recall. I'm trying to stick with what I said on my show with Flo. If anybody thought I was going to pick against my team in the biggest game in 23 years and I wasn't going to be a homer, you're completely crazy. But I actually do think Miami's going to win the game. But I think it's going to be a close game. I have no idea why there's an 8.5-point spread to begin with. But, could be wrong. Indiana could be that team, in which case you tip the cap to them and hey, man, you guys just crushed it, right? You guys crushed it and deserve it.
And I think you weren't here for this when Anthony Manzano brought it up, but he was wondering why the narrative about Indiana being one of the best teams in college football history. And I said, should they win?
Look, I think any team that has to go through 16 teams to win, right? Or 15 games, I guess, in their place, one less game. And they've beaten as many teams as they've done. I think they beat a really great Ohio State team in the Big Ten championship. I think they have a good resume at the end. I just don't see LSU level talent on here. I do not see 2001 level Miami talent filling 4 others, but does that not make them one of the great teams in college football history? I think they still could. You don't have to be the greatest to still be great, right? And nobody else has had to really go through this other than what your guys did last year.
Yeah. John Dry says, hey, y'all, guns up from West Texas.
What's going on, John?
Conundrum says 2 missed extra points. That you could get there for 2 missed extra points with touchdowns. 3 touchdowns and 2 missed extra points. Again, that would be if you want to bet that as a prop bet, you're going to get huge odds on that. That's going to be like $1 to win 50 grand. So
I mean, Mo, and you got to have a lot of prop bets too, because there's not other games for you to do parlays on. So you got to
no. I've got prop bets, man. That's just I do the same thing for the Super Bowl. I rarely pick, anything other than prop bets. I'll even bet the coin flip on the Super Bowl. They're just so big up front for Miami. If Miami can't run the ball, Indiana's going to run away with it, but I think Miami's going to be able to run the ball.
Look, to me, the key for this game is if Miami plays against Ohio State, they can win this game. If Miami plays the way they did against Ole Miss, they will get boat raced. Because Indiana just doesn't make mistakes, right? So that's how I look at this game as a Canes fan. I think if they shoot themselves in the foot, Indiana will make them pay because they're very disciplined. They don't cause their own problems. Fernando Mendoza throwing back shoulder passes is, freaking epic when it comes to that. He's one of the best I've seen. I can't remember the last quarterback who did it as quite as good as he did. So you have to have that tight coverage. So if they do any mistakes, if they do pre-snap penalties, dumb personal fouls, they're dead. If they play like they did against Ohio State and Texas A&M, I think we'll have a good game and we'll see what happens at the end on Monday night.
Antoine Johnson says, I think Miami wins. Miami plays their best game of the season. 31-21 Miami.
I like that. Book it. I'll take it.
I like that you back there.
Yeah, that's the one you see when people are posing on campus. That's the main one.
That's a main U. What is each of your thoughts on capping player compensation versus not? How do you feel about that? Should there be a cap?
Yeah, the minute after you do CBA and you have a salary cap, I'm fine with it. Until then, I don't really care. All the problems we're having is because nobody wants to address the actual problems in that. And look, if certain teams in college value a position more than that position would be paid in the NFL, that's their right. That's the free market. I don't like the whole rules for me but not for thee, or rules for thee but not for me kind of thing. Solve the problem, put a salary cap. People have to be judicious about what they spend on it, do all the things we think we need to do. There's at least some presidents and school administrators and commissioners out there saying it. I know that in particular, first time I really heard him speak to it, but Miami's president was on Pat McAfee talking about the need for collective bargaining on Friday during his guest appearance there. So there are definitely some people out there. And I also just want everybody on whatever side of the fence you choose to think about it, to just not be hypocrites about it.
Yeah, for me, I do believe there should be a cap, because the problem without a cap is you're going to hurt a lot more schools than you're going to help.
Yeah, I don't want any LA Dodgers scenarios here, right? But
Right.
they're still operating within the rules. Now, people
Sure.
didn't imagine how the rules could be exploited and people would be willing to pay that much of a penalty for exceeding the cap so much. That's like lack of imagination on everyone. And the next time that they're figuring out the next agreement, they can try to figure out how to change it, right? But I do not want there to be an LA Dodgers in college football. And and also the other thing just to keep in mind is, just because somebody posts numbers on the internet doesn't mean that's what's really happening.
Yes, the $100 million rosters that we've seen
Right.
coming up in here. But thank you for the super chat, LC versus the Earth. I appreciate that. Let me see. Let's give you a Simpson sounder. Let's see what this one is.
Don't cry for me. I'm already dead.
Oh, my favorite Barney Gumble. John Dry says the actual problems are the SEC and the Big Ten. That's not entirely true, John. There's going to be teams in the ACC. There's going to be Texas Tech is going to be one of those teams that's going to spend above the cap. Miami's going to spend above the cap. Those are not Big Ten teams or SEC teams. Florida State, Clemson, Colorado. If Colorado really wanted to do it, Colorado could do it. They've got the money to do it. I don't think it's a Big Ten SEC issue exclusively.
No, look, there's definitely going to be a range of teams in each sport, in each conference, that are going to be able to do it. Maybe not once you get past the Power Four, though.
Now that I think about it, I should have went to Bloomington tonight. And You could have been live from Miami. I'd been live from Bloomington, Indiana.
I think all of Bloomington, Indiana is in South Beach right now.
Probably. And I don't blame
mean,
them because it's colder than balls.
And there are a ton of people who just came down here who don't have tickets and probably don't intend on buying tickets, but they're, spending a long weekend and hope that they'll be here when something amazing happens for, if Indiana were to win, they'll have that first national championship. And I'm sure they're going to want to party with all of the other people who are down here post game, whether they get to the game or not.
Yeah, the Hoosiers on snow, man. I don't know. Mo and Rock just did it again too. He said Miami, but not USC 2004. Is that a Miami blind spot?
I just don't even think about USC 2004 in that same conversation. I'm not saying that I'm right to do that. It just doesn't really occur to me. I think of like Nebraska 95 more than I think of 2004, but I think USC 2004, once you point it out, certainly merits the attention, right?
Yeah, it's so hard because of the recency bias from LSU, Joe Burrow's LSU. Because to me, that's the greatest college football team ever. Sheer dominance. I know you probably think Miami 2001.
Yeah, I just guess it depends upon whatever metrics you want to use, right? If you talk about first round draft choices and people that made the league and then got to the Hall of Fame, but LSU hasn't had enough time to fully decide what that program, what that team really was. It just made a pretty damn great statement to begin with.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up here, but I want to give you your final say here. This is my friend Rock. He is in Miami. He is a Miami alum. He is attending his 4th national championship game.
Correct.
4th national championship game tomorrow.
I'm out of practice, though.
That's true. It's been 20 years. So I'm rooting for the Hoosiers. I can't help it. I love the underdog story. But I do hope you have a good time, and I wish you the best. And I'll let you go ahead and do some sound offs on why Miami's going to win the national championship. Their 6th national championship tomorrow.
Hey, I just think, listen, I think Indiana's a great team. Would I be surprised if they won? No, I wouldn't. But I think I absolutely love, and I want to thank all the national media, all the people online, every single person basically saying that Miami has no chance. I don't think you could have done anything better for a Miami team than to completely underestimate them. It's literally the best thing. And when we have Indiana players talking about how they could be the 2019 LSU teams, as Nick Saban would say, rat poison.
Rat poison.
So, I will probably look. I'm looking forward to the game. I think Miami's going to win, but that's why they play the game. We're not Notre Dame. We don't do hypothetical national championships, or hypothetical bowl games, or hypothetical anything. We'll leave that to South Bend. The other team in Indiana at least tries to play their game and doesn't cry, even though 100 years of futility. They don't try to do anything hypothetically either. So I have respect for them and that coach. Tomorrow, if internet connection allows and security isn't brutal, I'll try to do some stuff on CFX before the show, before the game and everything, just to give people a vibe. And I think I have a live stream scheduled for after, but that might be situational because it'll depend upon how happy or pissed I am.
That's absolutely correct. Make sure you tune in. If you have not subscribed yet, go over to CFB, the letter X Press. CFB Express, subscribe. That's Miami Flow's channel, Rock's channel, the General's channel. They cover all kinds of great stuff over there. All of them are Miami guys, but we're not going to hold that against them. Sean says 31-28 Miami. I'm sticking with 38-34. For myself, for Rock, have fun tomorrow night.
Thank you very much, my friend.
We will catch you next Sunday in our off season of college football. Or no, we will not catch you next Sunday. I take that back. We will not be on the air next Sunday because of the championship game, the NFL championship game. So we won't be here next Sunday. We were here this Sunday, but that's just because, hey, national championship game. So we'll catch you guys
do it
a week from then. Until then, I want to thank everybody who joined in. And thank everybody for the super chats. Definitely appreciate David Sabinosh, Ricky Tungate, LC versus the Earth. Appreciate everybody's generosity tonight. Have a safe tomorrow, and we will catch you 2 weeks from now. Peace out.